And welcome to the Aaron Katsman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katsman. We're here to speak to you about your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon-to-be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. If you got any questions or comments, feel free to email me at Aaron, A-A-R-O-N, at Lighthouse with an L, lighthousecapital.co.il. That's Aaron at lighthousecapital.co.il. You can check me out on the web at www.aaronkatsman.com. That's www.aaronkatsman.com. Feel free to like, to subscribe, to give a thumbs up, to follow me. That's the word I was thinking of. Oh my gosh. To follow me on both Twitter and LinkedIn, and subscribe to the brand new YouTube channel. So I was stumbling, as I've been verbally stumbling until now. I came across an interesting article that was in Bloomberg Wealth and Equality. It's one of these days. Bloomberg Wealth and Equality. It talks about affluent Americans rush to retire in new quote unquote life is short mindset. And I'd like to read some of the article for you and then comment. Okay, it's really interesting. After a year of early morning Zoom calls, the specter of a deadly virus and soaring stock and real estate values, working American baby boomers who can afford it plan to get out while the getting's good. About 2.7 million Americans age 55 or older are contemplating retirement years earlier than they imagined because of the pandemic, government data show. They're more likely to be white, a group that typically has a larger amount of accumulated wealth, and many cite robust retirement accounts and COVID-19 fatigue for the early exit, according to interviews with wealth managers and federal surveys. So the first thing we see is that lots of people are looking at early retirement. Why? Because they've had a couple of really, really good years in the stock market and because of surging real estate prices. Much like the U.S. economy's so-called K-shaped recovery, the pandemic is treating the affluent differently, empowering them to leave corporate life early. Others who lost jobs had to delay retirement or grew discouraged and retire before they were ready. In fact, early retirements, whether desired or forced, will deprive the labor market of some of its most productive workers and have an impact on the economic recovery that is still too early to evaluate. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said, citing a significant number of people saying they've retired as one reason companies reported labor shortages, although it's unclear if they're going to eventually return to the labor market. So we actually said something really interesting happened, and that's that very highly qualified workers are leaving the labor market. We see that especially in healthcare. We have a lot of doctors who tend to be anyway older, are taking early retirement. They've done well, their investments have done well, and they want out, right? So that's really, really interesting. Now, that could have all kinds of longer term ramifications, obviously, on the economy, right? When you don't have skilled workers, you don't have skilled workers on the job to train new workers and show them the work ethic and all those things, which we sort of, we talk about negatively about the millennials, but having, seasoned workers with lots of experience on hand can be very, very beneficial to an entire workforce. And now we're seeing that start to fade away a little bit. And that's really, really interesting. And that can be sort of damaging in certain respects to the US economy. Now, why is this happening? Going back to the article, financial advisors say they're seeing a new life is short attitude among clients with enough money socked away to carry them through retirement. The prospect of going back to the daily grind is going to be really tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, said Kenneth Van Leeuwen, founder of financial services firm Van Leeuwen & Co. in Princeton, New Jersey. Right? He gives an example. One client, an executive whose stock portfolios performed well, is retiring at 48 as the prospect of having to go back to traveling 10 to 12 nights a month isn't appealing anymore. Okay, so we have sort of a renewed emphasis, I would say, on work-life balance. Now, this is something that was really popular a few years ago. It sort of faded away. And I think because of COVID, certainly from this article at least, is coming back, right? People want to have a quality of life and they don't want to, they don't want to work until they, God forbid, they drop, right? They want to enjoy themselves. They want to enjoy while they're young and healthy, right? He gave an example of a lady who got tired of working more with less as the pandemic dragged on. She helped oversee state parks for the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation. Okay, during, she had to hire a bunch of rangers and what have you. She retired this year at 58, 5 years earlier than expected. Her husband also retired from his job at the financial services firm, and now the couple plan to sail to the Caribbean over winters in their 42-foot sailboat. By exiting early, she'll collect a smaller payout from her pension, but the couple's other retirement accounts have ballooned so much lately that, quote, we're going to be in the green until I'm 92. Okay, so it's really interesting that people are, as far as the work-life balance issue goes, they're trending back, I would say, towards the life aspect, right? They want to live it up. I think people really got a scare from COVID. Those of us who actually had it, yours truly, after being vaccinated, that's a different story. That'll be for another good interview. Can tell you that, priorities, I think, changed for many, many people during this last 16 months, 17 months, whatever we're up to, last count. And people want to focus. They spend a lot of time with their families. I think they enjoyed that for the most part. And they want to continue on. They don't want to go back to the rat race, right? So they're cashing in. Now, who's cashing in? And this is sort of the point I want to make. Who's cashing in? Well, people are cashing in the people who did things correctly, right? People invested, people who own property, right? People who saved money are now reaping the rewards of what they sowed. You like that? They're reaping the rewards of what they sowed. You can quote me on that. Just, give me proper citation. Okay. But the point is, if you're in that situation, then speak to a financial advisor and figure out, well, do I have enough money now to take early retirement? And if you're younger and you'd like to think about retiring early, speak to a financial advisor and figure out, well, what do I need to do, right? Hopefully there won't be another pandemic to take advantage of, or not to take advantage of, right? But what do I have to do in everyday regular life in order to get to that point where I don't have to work until 65 or 67 or 70 or whatever it happens to be, right? What can I do now to start saving or to amp up my saving so that I can also retire early and not get caught up in the rat race and enjoy myself and enjoy my family and my grandchildren and, sail around the world or whatever it is, go fishing, play golf, whatever it is. Another point that I want to make, as I've mentioned many times, travel is not a retirement plan, right? You have to find something if you're going to take early retirement, especially if you take early retirement, right? If you're retiring at 48 years old, you can easily have 40 years plus, not just funding your retirement. Figure that you've done a good job and you're working with your advisor and your plan is good and you're making money and all is hunky-dory on the financial side, right? It's the other side. What are you going to do for 40 years? Right? One good thing when you go to work is from 9 to 5 or whatever your hours are, you're pretty busy during that time. You're productive during that time. What do you do for 40 years when you don't have a job to go to? You have to find something more than an odd round of golf and the odd vacation. Okay. You've got to find something with meaning. And that's really, really important. And in these articles, right, the Bloomberg article and have you never see anybody even speak about that. And that's what I'm here to talk about, right? You need to figure out, if you're early retirement, if that's your plan, or even if you're regular retirement plan, what are you going to do in retirement to continue to give yourself meaning, right? Are you going to volunteer? Are you going to maybe work part-time? Are you going to, I don't know, figure it out, right? Whatever people like to do, but it can't just be, yeah, I'm going to play golf, because you're not going to play golf for the next 40 years. Okay. That's right. Your knees are going to start hurting at some point. You're not going to be able to see where when you hit the ball into the sand trap, you're not going to be able to find it because your vision's going to go. Right. But no, seriously, you really have to do something which is going to be productive, right? You're put here, you were given money, you invested well, everything worked out for you. Now it's time to, in a productive way, give something back to society. I think something that's got to be focused on. It's unfortunate that none of these early retirement articles talk about that for the most part, but I think that this particular article that I highlighted was really interesting in the fact that you're seeing a surge in people now seeking or trying to figure out early retirement because they have done well financially. So for those of you who are in that boat, no pun intended, so figure out something of meaning to do for the next few decades, right? It's just you're not going to wake up late and watch Netflix for the next 40 years, okay? Figure out something to do to contribute to society. For those of you who are younger, who haven't reached that financial level of success yet, speak to your advisor, figure out what can you do, right? That you can potentially retire a little bit early and have both a financially secure retirement and a meaningful retirement. You've been tuning into the Aaron Katsman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katsman. We speak to you about your life, your money, and your investments. If you got any questions or comments, feel free to email me at Aaron, Aaron, at lighthousecapital.co.il. That's Aaron at lighthousecapital.co.il. You can check me out on the web at www.aaronkatsman.com. That's www.aaronkatsman.com. Be sure to follow me. That's the right word, to follow me on both Twitter and LinkedIn, and subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you soon.